Hello, children. Today let us learn the lesson, The Cop and the Anthem, from the text, The Alien Hand. The writer of this short story is William Sidney Porter, who is known by the pen name O. Henry. This lesson is a humorous one. It's about Soapy, who was a jobless and homeless man. He was in search of shelter to keep himself protected during the winters. He believed that Blackwell's Island prison was the right place for him. He tried his best to get arrested, but all his attempts went in vain. Finally, Soapy realized his mistake and he decides to live a life of dignity. But he gets arrested by a cop and he is sent to a prison. Now let's go into the details of the lesson. Soapy was a man who was jobless as well as homeless. He was getting restless because he knew that winter was approaching. He had spent his days alone in Madison Square. It was all right in summer. He made his bed warm with 3 newspapers. But now winter was fast approaching. He felt cold. He hoped to spend winter's 3 months in the prison on Blackwell's Island. Just 3 months in the prison was all that he wanted. There he was sure of getting food and a bed every night. He would be safe from cold wind and also from the fear of the police. He had been to prison several times with that purpose. Once again, he made small plans for going to the island. If he went to any other place, he would have to pay for what they gave him. They would not ask for money, but they would make him wash his whole body and answer questions regarding his personal life. So prison was better than all the other options. Soapy thought of easy ways to reach the prison. Soapy's first plan was to have some good food at a restaurant and then tell them that he had no money to pay the bill. So then they would call a cop is a police, who would arrest him. The judge would send him to prison for 3 months. Soapy tried his luck. His face was clean and his coat was good enough. But as soon as he put his foot inside the restaurant, the head waiter saw his broken shoes and stopped him from entering the restaurant. So his first plan failed. He next went to a shop with a glass window. He threw a big stone through the glass and broke it. People came running. A cop also arrived. Soapy admitted having broken the window, but the cop did not consider him as having committed the crime, because men who break windows did not stop to talk to cops. They ran away from the scene as fast as possible. So now even the second plan of Soapy failed. He then went to another restaurant. The people who went there were not so rich. After he had his big dinner, and when it was time for him to pay the bill, he announced that he had no money. He asked the waiter to call the cop, but the waiter did not call the cop. Instead, he just threw Soapy out of the restaurant. Now even the third plan failed. A fear caught Soapy. He was afraid that he would not be caught. Then he came up to a cop standing in front of a big theatre. He began to shout as if he had had too much of drink. Soapy hoped that at least now he would be caught. But the cop ignored Soapy. He thought Soapy was a college boy and believed that he was not harmful. Soapy's plan failed again. He was getting restless. He feared his dream of reaching Blackwell's Island would not be fulfilled. Then he saw a man in a shop buying a newspaper. The man's umbrella stood beside the door. Soapy took away the umbrella and walked away. The man followed him and asked Soapy to return the umbrella. Soapy asked the man to complain about him to the cop who was standing at the corner. But the man did not go to the cop. Instead, he walked away. So it was clear that the man himself had stolen this umbrella from somebody else, which he admits to Soapy. Now, Soapy gave up all hopes of being arrested. He decided to walk back to Madison Square. But at a very quiet corner, Soapy stopped. He could see his old childhood home. He was reminded of his childhood days and his mother. He could hear the soft music being played, and it seemed to hold him there. There was a sudden change in him, and Soapy decides to fight to change his life. He decides to make a fresh start and change his attitude for the better. The sweet music had changed him. He decides to find work the next day. But at that moment, he felt a hand on his arm. Soapy turned around and saw a cop standing next to him. The cop asked Soapy what he was doing there, and Soapy began to argue with him. The cop was not ready to listen to Soapy and took him along with him. The next morning, the judge sentenced him to 3 months on Blackwell's Island. So, dear children, we should understand the irony of the situation. An irony is a situation in which something which was intended to have a particular result has the opposite or a very different result. Soapy wanted to be arrested, but though he made many attempts to get arrested, he was not arrested. Finally, when he decides to lead a better life, changing his old ways, he is arrested and sentenced to jail. Thank you for watching this video. Like, share, subscribe and comment for suggestions.